All right, Pablo. So things broke down. There was a lot of news, a lot of rumors about where Blake will go after his agreed buyout with the Detroit Pistons, and the team that was leading the discussions kind of won out at the end. And Blake's going to the Brooklyn Nets. Where do you think this really puts him? Is he a good fit for the team? Does it definitely guarantee them a title at this point? Are they the favorites in the NBA? Because I know you already had them favorites in the East and going to the finals before that, but is he really that missing piece that you think that puts him over the top over even the Lakers or whoever comes out of the West?
Well, I'd like to thank you, my boy, just for pointing that out. You're right. I did have the Brooklyn Nets going to the finals. I've had the Brooklyn Nets going to the finals for a long time before the season started, before the acquisition of James Harden.
Mhm.
I have to say, when Blake Griffin was bought out by the Detroit Pistons, it really put an interesting spin on things. We know that the trade deadline is still a couple of weeks away, but him getting bought out really almost pushed the contenders to make a decision as to whether or not they should add him to their front court or not. We heard that there were several teams interested: the Boston Celtics, both LA teams, the Miami Heat. At
Right.
the end of the day, we know that Brooklyn is the team that won out, and they're going to be the ones employing his services. But at the same time, while I don't think it's 100% an ideal fit, I would never say that this guarantees them the title. We know that Blake Griffin isn't all that he used to be a couple of years ago when he was actually in the peak of his career. We know that Blake Griffin isn't there anymore. I, however, think that this was a good pickup by the Nets. I remember when the James Harden trade first went down and we were talking about what they were losing and what they had to sacrifice in order to bring the beard on board.
Right.
And at that point, we talked about how this was going to leave their front court depth a little lacking and how they weren't going to be as good defensively. Now, Blake
Right.
Griffin isn't going to change the defensive stance of your team. He's not going to come in and automatically
Right.
up that defense from last in the league to,
Yeah.
make it a top 10 defense or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Blake Griffin, very importantly, I think there's two aspects that we should consider in this. The first one being that he is a serviceable front court bench option at this point in his career. I don't think that that's too much to ask. You think
No,
about what he
I
was
agree.
doing in Detroit before he sat out the 10 or so games prior to him getting bought out. He was having an okay season, averaging right around 13 points, a couple of rebounds here and there. And I think if he's able to provide that to the Nets lineup in his appropriate minutes, then I think
Mm-hmm.
that it would be a very astute signing. The second aspect that I think we should keep in mind here is that winning motivates players. And I don't think, like I said, that Blake Griffin is going to be the same high flying, electrifying Blake Griffin that we saw, 10 years ago on the LA Clippers. He's not going to be throwing down dunks on everyone's head left and right. But I think he's capable of providing that spark off the bench, doing just enough. And I think the situation actually benefits him really well. He's not going to come into the team and they're not going to expect him, like I said, to be dropping 20 and 10, 18 and 10, anything of the sort. He's just going to have to come in and have really productive spurts of minutes on the floor. Now, I'm really curious as to how Steve Nash is going to incorporate him into the rotation, if he's going to be getting the ball offensively or not. That I'm more curious about. And I guess that is more yet to see, to be determined.
Right.
But I actually think this was an astute pickup by the Brooklyn Nets. It was an area that they needed reinforcements in, obviously after the James Harden trade, especially. But hey, even in that video when we were talking about the fallout of the Harden trade, I said, don't be surprised if closer to the trade deadline, the Nets go for some washed up big man, someone off the streets who I thought that was going to be their most viable option. But with
Right.
Griffin getting bought out in Detroit, I think that just really almost fell in their lap. In contrast, though, I know you necessarily haven't been a big believer in Brooklyn, Bill.
I think absolutely nothing. It does absolutely. It provides them with another body, but like literally, whatever their deficiencies were, it hasn't helped in any of them. Hasn't helped with their rebounding. Not a very good rebounder if you look at his career. He's an average rebounder for
Mm-hmm.
his position at best. And then only thing he was good at was his athletic ability and being able to score. And you've seen that even like in Detroit, where a team which lacks scoring and needs you to score, he was only putting up, as you said, about 13 points. So
Right.
injuries have taken a big toll on him. I'm not gonna fully say that it's his fault or anything. He's had way too many injuries at this point. and he's just another body. Like, I don't think it does anything for their chances in any way. At that point, it's just, I think DeAndre Jordan technically is a better option than what he is, because you just need someone who
Yeah.
can defend, or kind of defend. DeAndre Jordan isn't a great defender anymore, but someone who can defend, catch those lobs, rebound, and that's all you really need. You already have three top players in this game, and who can score at will on any defender in the league. So you don't really need whatever he offers. But I think it's just one of those situations where, why not? Let's get another guy on our team that who used to be a star, or
Yep.
Maybe he has something left, and maybe it'll be that one playoff game that he comes through off the bench and he drops like 20 points. And sure, at that point, but overall, I don't think he provides much value to the Brooklyn Nets, and my stance still hasn't changed. I think they'll probably get to the Eastern Conference Finals at this point, ever since we talked about it previously. Ever since Durant's been out, Kyrie and Harden have really gelled. Kyrie has given off his play calling duties, given it off to Harden, and he's starting playing more the two guard position. So that's really helped the whole team gel, because they have identities and roles everybody has. So we'll see how that happens when Blake Griffin comes into the picture. Of course, Kevin Durant comes back after the All-Star break. So we would really see how that goes. Do I think they're going to make the NBA Finals after this? No. I still don't think they're going to make the NBA Finals after this. I still believe 76ers will make it at least. I just think at the end of the day, they cannot stop anyone. Literally, they cannot stop anyone, especially someone like, and I still think Daryl Morey will pull a move right at the end of the trade deadline, which will kind of bolster what 76ers have and what they want to do going forward. Some kind of three-point shooting type of player, playmaker, someone who can space out the floor for them. I think Blake Griffin was not the player they really needed to target. I think the one they really need to be kind of pushing and maybe kind of tamper on the side, if you want to call it, I think that would be Andre Drummond. I think Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving should all be hitting up Andre Drummond's phone. Get bought up, man. Come on, let's do this. We want to do this together. We'll take the Lakers down. We'll win a chip. If he comes to the team, I think it definitely puts him. That's the piece they definitely need, and he would help them tremendously, because he's literally everything they lack. Rebounding and defense is exactly what he provides. He does not need to do anything else. Where I don't think really Blake does that. So I don't really think it does anything to their chances as a team. But if they get under Drummond, I'll be on the same boat with you. I think they're definitely going to the Eastern Conference Finals at that point.
No, you're absolutely right. Like I said, this wasn't going to be the signing that was going to completely overhaul their flaws and was completely going to fill their needs. But as you mentioned, I think that Blake Griffin was worth almost kicking the tires on, because at the veterans minimum, for 1 year, could take a flyer on a guy that used to be able to play. And hey, all he needs to do just to prove valuable, as you said, maybe have a defining moment in a playoff game. Maybe be it's funny saying this, Blake Griffin in 2021, to be able to force a mismatch. But you never know. It could happen, especially in the playoffs when games become a lot more tighter and it becomes a shorter rotation. That front court depth will definitely be more value to the Nets than I think a lot of the other teams that were in for his services. But I think overall, big picture, you're right. It doesn't move the needle much. I don't think the needle needed to be moved much, to be honest with you, though. I still think Brooklyn, once Kevin Durant comes into the fold, is a legitimate three-headed monster. And, for all the time that KD has missed, both this year and obviously the previous seasons with the Achilles issues, I don't want to say that people are sleeping on him, but, he showed that he is an MVP All-NBA talent still, and that the injuries, even though, of course, they forced him to miss significant time, they haven't really diminished his level at this point, or at least not yet. So we're still seeing, peak KD. And if he's able to stay that way, Blake Griffin or no Blake Griffin, I think the Nets were definitely a dangerous team in the playoffs regardless.
No, absolutely. But I think the major player that's going to come out if the person gets bought out will be Andre Drummond, because I think Lakers want him. Yep. I think they'll go much more aggressive for someone like Andre Drummond compared to Blake
Griffin. Yeah.
All right, guys, thank you so much for watching the Bill and Pablo show. If you liked the video, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel to keep watching this more fun content like this. If you think Pablo's wrong on anything, I'll be the state, as always. Just don't forget to, write it down in the comments. Don't dislike the video. Until next time, keep watching the Bill and Pablo show.